What are the important quality consideration checks for lime, milk of lime? What can you guys tell us? I think maybe Captain, you can kick off on that one.
I think, Simon, you're most probably the better person to answer that in terms of the milk of lime quality.
Okay, yeah, so quality for considerations for the lime you're using, full milk of lime and the milk of lime, they're not complicated. You should obviously have a specification from your supplier of, if it's unslaked lime, you certainly want to know what the available lime percentage is in the lime. Typically, you know, again, here in South Africa, a minimum available lime spec would typically be 85%. That's a minimum spec, and one would expect, you know, ongoing process being about 89%. That's sort of kind of the spec you would, so that's a quality check you would have on your incoming lime. I mentioned before that reactivity, how readily that incoming lime reacts with water in your slaking process if you are using unslaked lime. But reactivity is not often used as a quality determinant in slaking processes. Reactivity, we have customers in the steel and alloy industry used as where lime is used as a slag conditioner, and that's where reactivity is important for that. But it does have its place in, as I explained, it's determined by its ability of lime to react with water. But so if your quality consideration to your supplier of unslaked lime for slaking is available lime and percentage grit, I would think you would need to, and again I mentioned it previously, the more grit you have, it takes the place of available lime. So available lime is the key quality determinant that you must specify. Fineness of the lime, obviously, is what you say. You want a fine unslaked lime, 80% minus 45 micron, or whatever the spec is, because that will determine the consistency of the product of the feed going into your slaker. And Carsten's already mentioned that water temperature can change things in your slaker. You don't want to have more variables based on the feed lime coming in, i.e. your availables or percentage of grit that varies and things like that. Moving on to the milk of lime. The milk of lime, you know, as I mentioned, it's a suspension, and it's typically measured as a percentage solids in your milk of lime. So you want a 20% lime slurry, for example, and that is easily measured in the lime plants we have run. You know, you have a Marcy density scale next to the slakers, and the operator periodically just fills a little 1 liter bucket and reads the slurry density off the scale. And that's a very useful tool, just as a sort of online you know, a measure of what goes on. So it measures the slurry density of that, and that typically, depending on your process and the length of your ring mains and all sorts of other good things, a 20% lime slurry density is a good number to work on. You know, 10%, you know, you're just pumping much more water around, and anything much more than about 24%, 25%, things start getting a little bit syrupy and things like that, and that's where Carsten will have problems with the kit that he provides, where these things start blocking up and the like.
Thanks, Simon. Thank you very much. And then you mentioned about lime availability. So obviously, whatever quantity you put, whatever's in there is not 100% of what you require. So we're talking about 94%, 95% there in terms of what, or you mentioned 94 to 96% in terms of lime availability. So it means there are some impurities which you don't necessarily need or require for the process. And so at what point, and how do you determine that in this case, I do need a grit removal process or equipment. How do you go about determining that?